speaker in today's debate, I have so many things to say because today's debate was a very messy debate. First of all, I want to say that the government has a responsibility to protect infant industries, and we want to put forth this policy because this policy has actually worked in the previous countries. Second of all, we're not talking about news time here, or we're not talking about, taking away prime time here. That's not the case, because the problem that we identified wasn't that, domestic news rates are low, and that's not what we're trying to achieve here today. We're talking more about movie industries. We're talking more about drama industries, and that domestic drama industries should have some kind of quota time. Not that domestic, news industries are not getting more attention. That's not what we're trying to do. We have clearly told you that there is first mover advantage in the movie industry, and that first mover advantage, especially when it comes to Hollywood and movie industries, is so great that some kind of protection must be done, and that's what we're going for in today's debate. Now, I would also want to clarify that our policy is not mutually exclusive. We're not restricting anything. We're not restricting necessarily the freedom of media to express themselves. We're simply putting a quota. And we say that simply putting a quota will not necessarily lessen the diversity of TV shows or diversity of movies that are available. We're saying that domestic industries need to be somewhat respected. And when we say that, when we include domestic industries, we say that diversity will actually enhance. Now, we see a dual stance in the opposition today. Because, first of all, they're not even giving a chance for domestic industries to grow. However, they're saying that, you have to still cope with the competition, and you're criticizing them for having bad content when you're not even initially giving them a chance to grow. Now, we say, first of all, just give them a chance, and if they still fail to do it, then criticize them then. First of all, we believe in the chance that they should deserve a chance to first initially grow in this competitive market. I have three main clashes of today's debate. The first is the role of the government. What should the role of the government be in this case? Second of all, why should a quota be a most effective measure to be taken in movie industries and in drama industries? And third, what is the benefit beyond this industry? First of all, we told you that the government doesn't need to stay cold-faced. The government doesn't need to always take the let it be stance. Even the most liberal democratic governments actually make interventions in order to protect their infant industries, and that's exactly what the government should do. That's not a bad thing to do. We told you, first of all, why let it be stance doesn't work. Because, first of all, it's not even fair to the viewers because you're not creating them a fair number of channels that could have been there. Second of all, it's not really fair to producers because first of all, you realize that the market is competitive, but you're not really doing anything to actually protect industries or even trying to actually create a fair playing ground. And first of all, we said the role of the government is to actually protect freedom of economic pursuit. And we say that in this market, especially in this market, we say that that's not fair because we see an unfair balance in that Hollywood market is actually dominating, or other industries who had first mover advantage is actually dominating. And we say this has a greater multiplied effect especially when it comes to movie industries, when celebrities or the fame of that industry so greatly affect the viewers. In this case, we say that domestic industries need to be actually protected by having a certain amount of quota, and we say a quota is the most effective way because it has worked in the case of South Korea. Now, we told you that for a second reason, they also need to protect it because it has some cultural value. You're not only protecting some commodity value, or you're not only protecting some economic activity, but you're also protecting your own cultural value because a movie has more than a commodity value because a movie describes your own culture. It has your own country's setting. It takes place in your country, and it has your country's language. It describes the very conflict that your country has. So we say it is a government's responsibility to more than protect economic activity, but to also protect your culture because that's what movie is. It has meaning beyond commodified activity. Third of all, we say that it's not really fair to viewers. They said, let viewers watch whatever they want to watch. First of all, you're not really providing them whatever they could have watched, because first of all, you're not even letting domestic industry a chance to grow. So you don't know if these domestic industries could have been capable. They could have produced more important channels. They could have produce more viewing time. However, you're not even letting that opportunity happen. So we say that you're actually blocking the freedom of viewers in that you're not actually providing them chances of channels or more dramas or more media that could have or that should have, that might have developed. Second of all, why is the quota system the best solution when it comes to this problem? First of all, we say because it worked. Because it has worked in South Korea. The reason why you see South Korean TV shows in Hong Kong is because we implemented policy. That's why we don't see Hong Kong dramas in Korean TV shows or any other parts of the world, because you have you don't have this policy. And this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to extend this policy to other countries as well. So we actually see Hong Kong dramas in Korean TV shows. We actually see a diversified channel, diversified media content, because we actually protect domestic industry and let them grow. That's exactly why you didn't see any Korean dramas 10 years ago. However, with this policy, now you see Korean dramas everywhere. Now you see Korean celebrities. And we have proved to you that this system has worked, and we want to now extend it because it's better not only for viewers but producers as well, but for the domestic economy. And we gave you so many beneficial reasons why we need to enforce this policy. A second, why is a quota the best solution in this case? They said supply and demand is the best. But we know, everyone knows that supply and demand is not the best solution in any cases. First of all, you're not even giving them a chance to, because you're not clearly understanding the market here, that first mover has so many advantages. And second of all, this, we said, is a healthy intervention, that supply and demand has failed over these years because these kind of industries have so much dominance when it comes to movie industries or drama industries, because Hollywood industries and American industries or other southern movie industries actually dominate the market. We also said that quota is effective because it's an incentive for domestic producers. It's an incentive for domestic producers to actually produce better movies, because now they have a playing time. And second, we also said that the quota is effective because you're actually creating exposure of that content. We say it doesn't necessarily have to be exposure that is effective or that is something that caused much attention, but the existence of exposure itself, that we're actually being exposed to domestic content also, that itself is significant. And second, and also at the end, we say that it will still have competition. It will further promote competition in the domestic market. They said that, if you guarantee a playing time, that they will not work hard to actually achieve their high standard. However, that's under the wrong premise that there is only one competitor in the domestic market. There is many competitors in the domestic market, and if you as a country, if you as a nation guarantee some kind of playing time, there will be more domestic competition, and that will enhance the quality of domestic markets. Now, lastly, we have proved to you that there are benefits beyond what is imaginable under our policy. We said, first of all, domestic industries will grow because it's going to be an incentive for them to be more competitive if we ensure them a quota. Second of all, we said that economic activity will prosper. Third, we said, there will be a more appreciation of culture. Fourth, we said movie industries in the world will have more competition now because you have foreign companies or foreign competitors coming in. And fifth, it is better to the world viewers because you create a more diverse media to be exposed all around. And they're very proud.
Thank you. All of the three things.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a very interesting proposition. The government has come out and told us that the problem is that local industries can't compete with internationally famous movies. Here's the solution. They're just going to air these movies and people don't need to watch them. So our question is, how do you solve the problem of competition if no one actually watches it? The question we have is, how will these local industries at the end of their policy be able to compete with these internationally famous movies? We tell you it won't. I'll ask 3 questions at the end of today's debate. What is the role of government? What is the interest of citizens? And what is, or is there market freedom? So firstly, what is the role of the government? They come out and told you 4 levels of analysis. Firstly, the full extent of rights and the government's role is to protect local industries. We tell you, firstly, it's wrong. Government only limit rights. They don't actively interfere with the corporate rights. And even if we say that there is some rights that these corporate have, government's role is not to actively violate them. The analysis coming from Fiona was very clear. That companies can have the right to air whatever they want. There is no reason why the government interferes and stops whatever they air. The second level of analysis they told you is that you need to provide economic freedom. You need to provide fair competition. Now, we firstly tell you is who benefits from such economic freedom? At the end of the day, it's the citizens. That's the context and the analysis and the basis from which you need to look. Then the question comes, what is their interest? And we believe that that point helps our case because it's ironic for you to talk about the freedom with protectionism, because inherent in protectionism, you are limiting the very freedom you're trying to protect. And the freedom, I will elaborate more later on the second issue. Then they told you on the third analysis that there is inferior quality of these movies, and therefore you should protect these industries because they don't provide good quality movies. Now, ignoring the Ben's analysis on the points about protectionism and the need to protect it, there is no explanation whatsoever from the government why the government needs to protect inferior quality movies. Absolutely no engagement with this idea. We tell you if you're trying to protect something that's bad, something that's low quality, it's wrong because you just divert the resources to protecting something more important, something that's better, i.e. you air the good movies for citizens to watch. Even if we accept that, fine, they are inferior quality and you should protect it, we tell you we won't work. Why? If we accept your characterization that they are inferior, then the question obviously would be this. Do you think citizens are interested in watching boring, low-class movies? We tell you they aren't. So if you air them, no one's going to watch it. At the end, you're going to harm them more because now you're reinforcing the idea that local movies are always low quality, that they're always not interesting. That's why they will always resort to international movies. You harm them even more. We tell you, they told you on the 4th level analysis that you need to provide fair competition. We tell you on the very first level that's not possible because these international companies, they have huge economies of scale. And then we believe that the analysis is very simplistic because if you compare Hollywood movies, movies such as, say, Harry Potter, do you believe, or what they're trying to tell you is that the government should actively fund these movies to compete with great movies such as Harry Potter. There is no reason whatsoever why they can't achieve that level, simply because if we do accept a characterization that they're infant, they will never be able to reach that level. That is why you only throw money into the water. We secondly tell you that even if we accept your point, we tell you it's wrong. Why? Because you protect the wrong incentive to these companies. Their analysis on the incentive is actually incorrect. Why? Because we tell you that these companies will now know they have low quality movies. The government is willing to protect them. What does that mean? That means at the end of the day, with low quality movies, they will still be protected. So what's the net effect? The net effect is that these companies won't be incentivized because they know the government, at the end of the day, down the line, will be willing to protect them and they will not be, there's no interest in improving that very quality. Second issue, what is the interest of citizens? Now, they come out and told you, which you agree, is to protect the interest of citizens. But what they disagree is that they tell you you need to give them all the domestic products, all the plethora of choices. We tell you it's quite interesting. Why? Because the problem is that people currently lack interest in the local movies. And they tell you that you need to adjust the interest and benefit of these citizens. But the question you have to ask is correct. But what is the true interest of these citizens? The interest is in the foreign movies, not locally. And that's the problem they ignore. And we point out an inconsistency in that point, because they tell you that domestic products are actually better than foreign movies, but at the same time, the question is why no one watches it. If it's really that good, then people should be watching it and you don't even need to protect it. The problem is inconsistency, and the problem is because people's interest is not in the local movies. But even if we accept that there's an unknown interest suddenly popping up, we tell you that it's really like this. If people are really interested in these movies, they don't have to watch it via TV. They can watch it via other channels, such as buying DVD, buying CD, renting it, watching it on YouTube. There are a number of choices. There's no reason why you have to watch it through the TV. And the airing time is simply ineffective because you won't generate interest. If we see, oh, 6 o'clock, best time, but it's a boring movie, maybe you just put on a DVD. You don't have that effect there. We secondly tell you that you secondly told us that you need to benefit citizens. We agree, but we tell you the way in which you achieve this benefit is wrong. Why? Because you conceded that they are not forced to watch it. And so what will happen? If they don't watch it, how can they benefit from it? That's the point. They won't. And we secondly tell you that if you want to benefit citizens, you actually are helping our case. Why? Because we tell you overseas movies are the thing that people are interested in. And so by supplying that, you're actually benefiting or you're helping citizens to achieve what they want to watch. And that is the tangible benefit that you don't achieve under your model. Then we told you about the demand and supply forces, and the analysis from Ben is very clear. Then they come out and told you there is no real market for them. We tell you that's exactly the point, because people aren't interested. Why are you protecting something that people aren't interested in? You aren't fulfilling the role of the government that is to protect and to provide the true interest, which is overseas movies. And there's no engagement with this idea whatsoever. Third question, is there market freedom? We tell you firstly that they misunderstand the notion of market freedom. We tell you that market freedom means that there's no imposition on companies, on people, of what they can do and what they want to do. And it's very important because market freedom is allowing the invisible hand to operate however they want. And that means you will allow people to watch movies, to consume movies, to purchase movies, whatever they want. Same, you allow it through corporations to do whatever they want with their movies. And we tell you that, and they told you about domestic consumption and all the benefits economically, we just tell you it's not true, because that's not the inherent market freedom. You're interfering in the market, and there is no economic and market freedom you talk about. We secondly tell you the market is about the unrestricted medium of what corporations want to do. It's very consistent with what Fiona has said. We tell you when government interferes with these industries, when government disrupts the operation of the invisible hand, there is no market freedom. Madam Speaker, at the end of today's debate, only the opposition firmly stood by the principle of freedom of corporations and of people, the true interests of citizens, and the appropriate role of the government. When you consider the true costs of this policy, we are proud to oppose.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the reply speeches, beginning with the negative.
Madam Speaker, this was a very important debate because it will determine what I will get on my TV when I get back home. Thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, what I will be showing you in my reply speech today through 3 questions is that it is the opposition who has clearly taken the debate. My 3 questions are respectively, firstly, what is the role of the government in media corporations? Secondly, what leads to better TV? And lastly, what better fulfills the role of the media? So first of all, ladies and gentlemen, what is the role of the government in media corporations? We told you very clearly from first opposition that demand can't simply manifest itself simply because you set this minimum quota. People actually have to want it for people to actually watch it. We say that it is inappropriate for them to simply assume that because these local companies don't have the same bulk as international companies, therefore they won't be able to compete. We told you that good local media would still be able to compete because they have their attractiveness, they have their uniqueness, and people would still want to watch them. And we don't think that you should be imposing themselves upon these broadcasting companies for no good reason. We told you that media has to have a positive impact and contribution to society for the government to see the need and its role to protect it. We told you that what meager amount they've told you about culture simply isn't a contribution if they said within the very same sentence that people won't actually want it and that isn't really their concern. We think that if people don't want it and people don't want it, then you don't make any sort of positive impact and contribution. We think that what is truly fair to viewers is to give them something that they really want, and that's something we've been very consistent about from first to third. We think that the playing ground is already fair, and if the local companies are up to the job, they would be able to get their fun in the sun. So ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to this idea of what leads to better TV. What we told you from opposition is that eventually this policy will result in lower quality TV. That these local media companies will get complacent because no matter how lax they are, how lackluster their productions are, they will still be able to get themselves onto TV because the government has set up this quota. As such, we see that there is no incentive to improve because there is no incentive to compete. Whereas it is this side who tells us, you know what, maybe they will still have an incentive. We don't see the compelling analysis from them about these companies which are ultimately driven by a strong profit motive and the fear of competition, about how this will necessarily lead to better quality TV that's better for everyone. But lastly, let's move on to this question of what better fulfills the role of the media. What we told you in second opposition is that the media has a unique role within general society, because it upholds the freedom of speech and the freedom of thought within our society. We told you that the level of exposure of our citizenry to different ideas through the media is extremely important to the deliberative process in democracy. What little response we got from the opposition was to tell us that, you know what, these international media stations will still get some exposure, but we think that the amount of exposure is something that we are very concerned about. That's something we told you very clearly in third already. Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, we say that local media have had their time, they've had their fun, and it's time to say goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks, previous speaker, and welcome the last speaker for the day.
The only value they emphasize throughout the whole hour, Madam Speaker, is that they should let these companies work by themselves. But supply and demand is the best thing that that will work in our society. This will be true if we're talking about profit-making companies. We're talking about the government, Madam Speaker. What the true role of the government in terms of protecting our companies, Madam Speaker. That was what we were talking about. Now, Madam Speaker, we've never heard of an analysis from the negative side, what intrinsic harm actually it brings by simply giving more seats, simply providing a minimum period for these movie industries to screen their own products. We didn't hear any intrinsic harms upon that. The only thing they talked about was that the rights are going to be limited. What rights are being violated if you are actually providing more chance for these corporations to air their movies when they cannot even initiate under their policy, Madam Speaker? Now, in order to clearly tell you why we won this debate today, I would like to ask three major questions. One, who at the end of the day better helps infant industry? Secondly, who at the end of the day better helps domestic industry? Lastly, I will talk about what benefits it brings to our society. Now, under their policy, Madam Speaker, these infant industries cannot even initiate because they think that these qualities and the size and the power themselves are inferior to foreign companies. We say, once these people are provided chance, and after being provided with chance, if they fail, we cannot do anything about it. But don't we think that we should at least grant them the ground to initiate and prosper, Madam Speaker? Because we say these people are unfairly restricting just because you've just started, Madam Speaker. We say that the government role is to at least provide a chance to prosper, to at least expose themselves to the society, Madam Speaker. They gave us examples like Harry Potter. We do not believe that the domestic movies will suddenly compete with Harry Potter, but what we think is, just because you can compete with Harry doesn't mean that you shouldn't even expose these movies to our citizens, Madam Speaker. The second question is, who better protects the domestic industry? Now, we told you that the primary interest of a government is our citizens. What they've neglected is that these movie industries are also the constituents of our society. Second of all, Madam Speaker, they told us that people do not want to see. We have to guarantee the rights of those people. We say these people do not want to see because they don't even know the existence of these movies, because they cannot even initiate at the very beginning, Madam Speaker. They do not decide whether this is crappy. You have to give them a chance to decide whether it's crappy or not, Madam Speaker. Now, secondly, They've also talked about how people do not have interest. We clearly told you the very lack of interest itself is because they cannot even initiate under their policy. Now moving on to our third major question. Who better at the end of the day betters the society? Now we clearly told you how it increases the movie quality, how it gives chances for development of such industry, how it develops the economic industry. We also told you how people are going to appreciate their own movies. The only simple analogy from their side was that these movie industries will now be dependent on such quota because they now know that their seats are secure, that they don't have to compete. We've clearly given you analysis that even if you even if your seats are secure, if you're not stupid enough, Madam Speaker, you would know that a crappy movie wouldn't succeed, that a crappy movie won't profit you. Madam Speaker, this is a simple incentive for these people to actually better the quality of their movies because now they even have a seat to start with, Madam Speaker. They've never engaged into such responses that even started from the very second speaker, Madam Speaker, about the competition and how it betters the quality of the movies. Now, we told you that the exposure itself, they've told us about boring movies, that people will never watch boring movies, and we told you that this exposure itself has a meaning, because we're not trying to force anyone to watch these movies, but what we want to achieve at the end of the day, to at least expose these movies to these people, so these people will be interested, Madam Speaker. Under their policy, any kind of initiating industries will fall out, because supply and demand is the only thing that you have to support, and that's not the value what the affirmative side wants to support.